Hello, students. Here we're into phase two of our lecture series, and today we are going to continue with following along in your book on 392, Communication in the Age of Big Data and Challenges for Organizations. The thing is that we have all different types of communication. And, there's verbal, nonverbal, there is uh, communication through electronics technology, emails, and there's all different ways that we communicate. So, what your book states is the amount and types of information people view, process, and disseminate has increased at a rate of 2.6% per year. And they're saying between 1980 and 2008, the amount of information a person consumes per day outside of work went from just over 7 hours to almost 12 hours a day. And I would say for most of us, it's even more because, we're using these things right now and probably can't go 30 seconds or 60 seconds without checking our phones or communicating with some part of the world somewhere. And it says here that a study reveals that on average, U.S. citizens read about 100,000 words a day of media, the equivalent of a long novel. I think we do even a lot more than that right now with all the different types of technology that we have. But I thought it was interesting to read that every second, 12,000 new ads are posted on Craigslist and 600 new videos are posted on YouTube. Probably more than that, even this being one of them. So, what they focus on next on page 393 is it's about improving communication literacy. And yeah, I know it says improving information literacy, but literacy is all about communication. And how do we get smarter? We get smarter by being able to back up facts of what we say and what we do, and relying on others to do the same thing. So, when we talk about information literacy, we have to be able to know how we process information in our heads and how information is put together. How is it organized? And in your book, it talks about the Association for College and Research Libraries, um, and they go into all types of literacy key competencies, and you may want to go through each one of them. So, improving information literacy is important because we understand differently how to interpret data. And I think that's really important that the more accurate we are in how we process information, the better we'll be equipped to be able to understand how to interpret raw data. And um, the next section in your book here talks about how to develop and target a core message. So look at figure 11-3. So there is a process for developing a targeted message. And it also talks about how storytelling can be an effective form of communication. So look at developing the targeted message on figure 11-3. You want to identify the purpose of your message. Who is it being targeted to? What specific group? Refine your message into a story. Explain it so that, simplify things so that most people can understand the rationale behind your message. Give examples. talk about personal experiences. And these things help refine a message to a story. Then also find data to support your message. Confirm its accuracy. Don't just spiel out things that aren't backed up by some type of facts. People won't trust you and don't believe you if you keep doing the same thing over and over. And the last thing, here's where the diversity really comes in. Tailor your message to reach multiple communication styles. You want to be able to reach people by your understanding of how they will interpret your message. And that's really, really important. Do you understand where they're coming from as much as you want to purport where you're coming from? Understand that in the process, things may be broken down. You don't always have the opportunity to go back and say, well, what I meant to say was. A lot of times that's not happening. So that's when you look at developing a targeted message. Step one is, and this is on 394 of your book, identify the purpose of the message. Consider the purpose is in, if you're talking about a problem, the purpose of your message might be presenting a solution to the problem. If, the idea is, if you're going to complain about something, don't just complain and leave it there for others to solve. If you are in any type of a leadership role, if you have a problem that you want to address, take the time to formulate a solution. Trying to put people in their comfort zones. The next step is announce a new decision. And now, again, people don't like to come out of their comfort zones. So if you're announcing a new decision that's important to how it affects everyone, be sure you're able to think it through before you send the message. If you're talking about delivering bad news, like a plant layoff or a closing, how do you posture it so that not the people will feel good about the message, but that there are equitable ways that you've thought about before you actually made that type of announcement? You thought about it helping these individuals to get through the problem. And then finally, it talks about encouraging action. How do you motivate employees to get on the same team to work harder, to reach goals, to solve problems? Step two is targeting the message to a specific group within the organization. So your book states, in addition to identifying the main purpose of the message should be targeted toward a specific audience. If you're talking to your steering committee, your planners, your strategic planners in the upper part of your organization, you would target it differently than if you were talking to your frontline supervisors. But you also want to keep your transparency to make sure that everyone is getting the message so they can interpret it in their own light. What type of results will you be looking for? Be specific and be clear of what you want to get out of the message. And when you talk about the role of leadership's role in the communication process, where are you? Where are you putting yourself? How are you putting yourself in the trenches to understand where those receiving the message will receive it in such a way that you know that they are going to be part of the solution as you are? Make them know where they stand. That doesn't take people out of their comfort zone. Sometimes how uncomfortable that message might be that you're delivering, but it makes them a part of the solution, not exasperating the problem. Talk about the core values of the organization. How do we want to retain those core values when we're delivering the message? And then finally, time management. How long should it take to get through this entire process? And what type of resources are we going to need in order to do it? Then step 3 is refining the message through storytelling, related to something personal, related to how others have gone through the problem and have been successful, but do it factually. Dispel with all types of conspiracy theories and things that aren't true to create a good, solid message. Put value on the message and make those that receive it have an understanding of your sincerity. Look at figure dash 4 on page 395 about different types of stories. You can get a message across in about 3 minutes. Have a start, middle, and end to the story. But tie in the core values to the story. Make people feel comfortable about what they're listening to. And if you have to get a little emotional and be sincere about it, so be it. We're all human, okay? Try not to use jargon and simple language. That means, yeah, break it down so that everyone understands what you're saying, but don't use things that are going to mislead people. Use action words, not passive words. Have a hook or visual image that capture the attention of the listener. So if you're explaining things and you're talking about a story, like we see in some of these TEDx videos, use a PowerPoint. Explain it. So now going to figure 11.4 talks about the elements of storytelling. Set the scene, increasing action, climax, and conclusion. All right? That's important. Make people know, just like when you go to a movie, how you get through the crisis by trying to make others experience what you feel at the time. And then when you conclude it, come to the climax, and when you conclude it, tie up all the loose ends. So step 4 talks about finding data to support and verify the message. Step 5 is tailor the message to the specific audience, which I have already talked about. So this is pretty much the end of phase 2 of Wednesday's lecture.